Well, let's give it just another minute or two, Jennifer, and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
Nobody else in the waiting room, Jennifer? All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Well, my name is Bob Hahn. I'm the Assistant Council Commissioner, and I've sort of taken on the challenge of the rechartering for this year to help our council registrar, Jody Stonebrook. So I want to thank all of you for joining us. I see some familiar faces, particularly commissioners. I think we'll have a number of commissioners on board tonight. Hopefully more key threes from all of our individual units and other interested people that have just been involved in rechartering before. This is, I guess, is about our third, maybe our fourth year of doing a council-wide rechartering workshop as opposed to letting each individual district do it. I think it's gotten better and better each year, and I hope you'll find that tonight will be helpful to you. So next screen, Jennifer. The current rechartering tool that we're using was started last year. And it was kind of the result of a perfect storm. It had tons of bugs in it, and there were many frustrated people. And there were a number of reasons why there were problems. One, Boy Scouts were in the middle of the bankruptcy, and they were frankly just short of money to throw at a new software program. Secondly, because of the pandemic, they were short of people to try and go in and fix the problems that we had. And it was all a result of the fact that Internet Explorer went away, and with it, the ScoutNet program platform that we had. And of course, the rechartering was based in the ScoutNet program. So BSA had to come up with a brand new software program, and they did it in a hurry. And as we were the guinea pigs to find the bugs, and believe me, we found lots of bugs. I would direct your attention, we'll take a look at the resources later on in the program, but I would direct your attention to the list of fixes. They're actually pretty interesting, all the things that we had problems with last year, and we certainly hope that they're fixed this year. Next screen. I want to say, if you are a unit that is considering a change in your charter partner, you cannot do it in the rechartering process. You need to clean that up and do it before you launch into rechartering. So that means do it now. You can contact me or you can contact Jody Stonebrook, and we'll give you the details of the process of how to do that. But do your change in your charter partner before you start the rechartering process. What's new this year? Well, one big thing that's going to affect a lot of people is that you will not be able to submit your new charter unless every registered adult has their YPT certification. And it does not expire after March 1st, 2023. Or last year, you may recall that you could submit your charter. A couple of the adults might be missing their youth protection training. And then you could send the certification to Jody and she'd go ahead and then process manually the charter at that point. You're not going to be able to do that this year. You have got to make sure every adult has their YPT. And if they expire sometime between now, at the time you submit and March 1st, you will have a problem. They're going to have to go in and retake YPT. Another change this year is that Explorer posts and clubs will be able to use this process. If you were from an Explorer post last year, you ran into a lot of problems trying to get rechartered. And most of our posts didn't make that happen until the very end of the whole process. It should work fine. Although there is an addendum for Explorer posts that you'll find in the resources. And thirdly, if you are a unit registered in California, so that would be Shasta, all of Humboldt County, a few other odds and ends places, you will be affected by a new California law, AB 506. And that has to do with any organization that deals with youth under age 18. There are requirements that California is putting in place that frankly, they're still trying to figure out how to make it happen to satisfy the new law. But fingerprinting has to be done for registered adults. Background checks that are more stringent than what the BSA uses and so forth. So I would say if you have questions there, contact Daniel Washburn down in Humboldt County and Pacific Rivers. There was a question about council charter partner. Remind me at the end and we can talk about that when we bring up questions at the end. Thanks for the question. So my goal here is to make your recharter experience as smooth and error-free as possible. And so there are a number of things that you need to do to make that be that way before you ever hop on your computer and get into the recharter program. First, the unit needs to decide who's going to actually do the recharter, who's going to input it on the computer. And that has to be one of your key three, either the scoutmaster or the cub master or the committee chair or the chartered organization rep, or there's a provision for a fourth person, and that is somebody designated as a key three delegate. Now, maybe the key three, none of the key three actually want to do this, and you've got the wife of the scoutmaster or somebody in a parent in the unit that's good on the computer. That is a good candidate for actually being the person that does the work here. But they've got to be designated as a key three delegate. And you can go on the council website and there we have up a thing that tells you how to designate somebody as a key three delegate. So those four people could actually, no, you can't use the advancement chairperson, Chris, unless you go in and designate them as a delegate. Chris, you have a question? You're okay. All right. So secondly, you need to clean up your roster. And when I say clean it up, that means make it look like the youth and the adults who you plan to register have at the beginning of the next year, 2023. You can go in and make sure that all the adults and the youth that you are bringing into the unit have their applications in and paid their money. Adults have done their YPT. Get all those things done rather than try to upload documents into the Recharter tool. One thing that has been a problem for us last year is that the person doing the rechartering, they know who the adults are, they know who the youth are. That's pretty straightforward, but they usually don't know what kids or what adults want Scout Life magazine. They might know their own children. They might know that Johnny, always likes Boys Life. And so they check the box for him, and the rest of them, they leave blank. And then somebody comes along 3 months later and says, I'm not getting my Scout Life. So they call council, and Jody Stonebrook has to jump through a lot of hoops to contact National and get them re-registered with Scout Life, collect their money and so forth. So I would suggest that the Scoutmaster or somebody in the unit make a list and know who wants the Scout Life magazine before you get into the Recharter mode. We're going to talk about the online resources in a few minutes. I'll show you where they are, what they are, and you'll want to go in and look at them, print out what you think you need so that you have it on hand when you get into the rechartering. But most of all, make sure that the applications go in online. If you have a new adult or a new youth coming into your unit, get them to go online and fill out that application, pay their money. Don't plan to do a paper application and then upload it through the recharter process. This council is no longer accepting paper applications except in very extraordinary situations. Next slide, Jen.
Well, it's being picky. Hold on. One second. Reshare it. There we go.
Okay, so these are the various resources that we have available for you to work with, take a look at. And I suggest that you kind of go through many of these before you actually log on to the Recharter tool. There is an updated user guide that actually talks about screen by screen how to use the online tool. And there is a training video that goes along with that. It lasts 15 minutes and it is also updated. So the user guide and the training video are different from the ones that you might have seen last year. There's a timeline that talks about the various steps to perform before you log on to the tool, while you're using the tool, and then what happens after you submit that charter to the council. There's a Recharter guideline that talks in a little bit more depth than what I've given you as what you should do before you start. Basically talking about cleaning up your membership roster and so forth. It's a series of about 8 or 9 PowerPoint slides. There's a Recharter renewal calculator, which is simply a list of dates that you should follow. I didn't find it all that helpful. And if you're an Explorer post, you'll want to take a look at this exploring addendum. And then we have a list of frequently asked questions. It's updated from last year. It's quite lengthy, has a lot of the typical questions that come up. I strongly urge that you take a look at those FAQs. And finally, the summary of fixes from last year I talked about earlier. If you find that of interest, take a look at it. Next slide, Jen. There we go. So here are the most common defects that we typically run into. Youth protection training is missing, or it's in that expiration window. This and the criminal background check problem won't affect us as much this year as it has in the past, because we don't accept paper applications any longer. But there is one specific case, and it has come up frequently. People didn't know what to do when they wanted to have one person be in a dual position of the chartered organization rep and the committee chair. And they would try to go to the position manager and make that person in both roles, and they could do one or the other, but not both. And it turns out that the reason here is that that person has to fill out a separate application for each position. So if you had a committee chair who wants to stay in the position and is also going to step up and be the chartered org rep, he's got to fill out a new application for chartered org rep, even though he already did one for committee chair. I would say yes, Fred. That person would need to fill out a separate application. Another problem that we ran into last year, there are 3 people that can approve the charter once it's been submitted. And again, that's the key 3: the committee chair, the unit leader, and the chartered org rep. And an email, once you push the submit button on your charter, an email goes out to each of those 3 people saying we need approval on this. And all it takes is approval from one of the 3. The problem happens in that each person thinks that one of the other 2 are going to approve it, so nobody approves it. And it sits there for 2 weeks unapproved. And the person that submitted it is looking every day to see if they got posted, and they're still in limbo. So my recommendation here is that you have the unit decide who is going to be the approver among those 3 people. And then if that person takes off for a day or 2 or goes on vacation, otherwise can't go in and approve it, then one of the other 2 people certainly can make the approval. But we'd like to see it be the chartered org rep. And finally, probably the next most common defect that we see is a youth who is 18, but is on an extension for one reason or another. That person needs youth protection training, his application, and the criminal background check. Still a youth because he's able to do his advancement and so forth, but he's treated as an adult for the legal implications here. Next screen, Jen.
Oh, no. Sorry, I'm not sure why it's not doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Try it again.
Well, yeah, go back in again. Worked before.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Thank you. What's your name?
Oops. Button.
Yeah. Right on back. You guys are going to be in studio.
Okay, you may or may not have seen the new fee chart. Fees went up the 1st of August of this year. And so the national fee will be $75 for youth and $45 for adults. And then tacked onto that is the council fee of $36 for each. So the total cost for a youth currently registered will be $111, and for an adult, $81. Keep in mind that if you're bringing in a new youth, just like last year, it's a one-time fee of $25. That does not apply if it's a new adult. And then the fee for the chartered organization has gone up from 75 to 100. And the cost for Scout Life for a year has gone up to $15. I'm pretty sure it was 12 last year. Next screen, there we go. I get asked questions of, well, how do I get into the online recharter tool? And actually, there are a lot of ways. You can just go to advancements.scouting.org, which is actually the site where the program resides. And that all of the rest of the sites I'm going to show you here, you'll find it says log on to advancements.scouting.org. So that's it. But you could go to scouting.org/resources/internet rechartering, or you could actually go to the commissioner page, scouting.org/commissioners internet rechartering. Or if you want, you can go on to the Crater Lake Council website. And under scouting resources, you'll find a drop down for Recharter and click on that. And then that will lead you to the Recharter tool. And then actually on the home page of the Crater Lake Council website, down, if you scroll way down towards the bottom, I didn't realize it until earlier this week, but they actually call that a blog section. And there's a blog called Online Recharter 2022 Season, and you can click on that and it will take you to the Recharter tool. But I get a number of calls from people that say, I can't find the Recharter tool. Well, where are you looking? Well, I'm in my.scouting, and that's not the place to go. You need to go to advancements.scouting.org. Next slide, Jen. So some of the dates can get confusing, but let me just run through these. The Recharter tool opens up on October the 1st. That I think is this Sunday. We ask that you submit your charter by November 15th. Does everybody do that? No, you know they don't. But it takes a lot of council resources after the first of the year when people still haven't rechartered, trying to get them and their problems resolved. So the sooner that you can get it in, and then if there are deficiencies, we'll work with you. Your present charter will actually expire on December 31st. If you have not rechartered by February 1st, so you've got a month of grace period in January, and then on February 1st, you would find that you were no longer able to record advancements. Or if you went to my.scouting and tried to pull up your roster, you would not have access to it. So basically, you're frozen out. And then, of course, the drop dead date where you fall off the cliff as a unit is March 31st. On March 31st, the Boy Scouts of America considers that your unit no longer exists. So we try to get this done by November 15th. Next slide. So if you have questions that we don't answer tonight, something comes up down the road, you can contact me. You have my cell number there or my email address. I would rather you try to contact me first. We'll save the big heavy lifting for Jody Stonebrook, our council registrar. I think all of you know that Jody is hard to reach. She totally runs the scout office in Central Point. She is a really busy lady. And oftentimes she won't get back to you for a week or so. It only gets worse during a recharter season. So send me an email. I'll try to help you out. And if I can't, then I'll get to Jody, or Jody we'll see that Jody gets back to you. So at this point, Jen, take the slides down and let's just jump onto the Crater Lake Council website, if you will. All right, so here we are at the homepage of the council website, and we want to go to scouting resources up at the top. And can you scroll down? All right, see on the left column, I'm sorry, the right column, Recharter. So click on that. And this will bring up the Nationals charter renewal page. And you see under online internet recharter 2.0 advancements.scouting.org. If you click on that, that will take you straight to the tool. And then down, go ahead and click on that. That's what the first page of the tool looks like. And you'll need to use your my.scouting username and password to get in. Okay, back out of that, Jen. And then scroll down. You now are looking at the various resources that we talked about. There's the timeline, the Recharter guideline, the calculator. The two most important things are the user guide and down below the training video. And the training video is good, but they show computer screens, and frankly, that sometimes they're hard to read. I really recommend that you print out the user guide in color and then use it as she goes through the video. It will make a lot more sense to you that way. And then scroll on down, if you will, Jen. There are the frequently asked questions, and keep on going. And there's the summary of fixes. There's actually also a Recharter demo tool if you want to go in and play around in a sandbox before you jump into the real Recharter tool. So I guess we can shut that down, Jen. Just go back. There we go. So let me open it up to questions. Chris, I know you had asked a question earlier.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So my troop 7 is with the Methodist Church in Medford, and I believe the Methodist Church has decided not to continue chartering anybody.
That is correct.
So I've never really heard yet from the council whether the council is going to be the new charter organization, or how's this going to work?
Council will, for the Methodist, the people that are currently sponsored by the Methodist Church.
So
My understanding is the council board just passed a resolution to adopt doing that at their meeting last week. I was unable to attend. I don't know the ins and outs of it. And I think it was kind of a rubber stamp. Yeah, we'll do it. And now the details have got to get worked out so that you can actually go ahead and accomplish that.
okay.
We will be working with the 4 Methodist sponsored units to make that happen.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
I would hold off on your recharter until we know what we're doing. Good
How
question.
do we I mentioned earlier that our advancement chair usually does this, and I would like to set him up as a delegate. Do we have to do that online somewhere to make him the delegate?
You do have to do it online. And rather than push everybody down up that rope, let's talk offline later, the
Okay.
next couple of days. I'm
That sounds
glad
great.
to help you out there.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
But I think let's reiterate that if you have somebody in your unit that's going to do the recharter who is not one of the key three, then you need to make them a key three delegate, which means basically they can speak for the key three in the scouting organization. Other questions?
I got one. The new youth one-time fee, the $25 fee. Did youth that crossed over or otherwise registered during 22, have they already paid that fee when they registered?
Yeah, they just pay it one time. And if they were in a Cub Scout pack and then they've crossed over to the troop, they don't have to worry about that.
So who would actually pay that at Recharter if we're not adding people at Recharter?
Well, they were already registered this year in the pack, is that right?
Right.
So it's a moot point.
So
They're
somebody
simply
joined,
transferring into the troop.
yeah, so somebody joined scouting, not from a pack, but joined in 2022. Would they already have paid that $25 fee?
Yes, they would.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really, it doesn't come up at Recharter then? Is that?
Well, maybe you've got a new kid that was picked up at a join night in, say, October, and they're brand new. They're going to have to pay that $25 fee
When they register though, not,
when they pay with their application. That is
right,
correct.
yeah, so it won't be on the
So
Recharter.
on the recharter, that's not going,
Yeah.
you're correct.
Okay, got it.
Good question, Brian. That kind of reminds me of something else. You mentioned crossing over from a pack to a troop. That has to happen by the pack or by the parent of the youth. The incoming, the troop that they're going into cannot affect the transfer. Any other questions? I see Daniel Washburn's online. Daniel, I don't know that you were in the Zoom meeting when I said they should call you if they had questions about California 506.
I was,
Oh, okay. You comfortable with that?
yes.
Good. I knew you would be.
I have a question.
Yeah, Amy.
It's more related to people registering prior to the recharter process.
Okay.
I know at this time of year, when people apply, it's requiring the prorated amount to be paid for this year plus the full amount for next year.
That is correct.
And I have found that that's an issue with a lot of people that are registering because we do allow new scouts to sell even popcorn at this time of year to raise money for this process. And so a lot of them sometimes can't afford it. And so there's like just a lot of money exchanging that I feel like is kind of unnecessary. I don't know if that's ever an option to allow payment for next year, but also an option to just have them pay at the end of the, when we do the recharter. It just kind
Well,
of forces their hand sometimes.
I understand that it can create some tension there. Unfortunately, that's not something that's in the ability of the council to change. That's something that was set up by national, and we're sort of stuck with it.
Yeah, because I'm having the issue with it applies to scouts and to leaders as well. But we actually cover the costs for our leaders, but then we're having to pay them back, which is kind of a process that I feel like is
Humbug.
unnecessary.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep, I feel for you. I understand, but there isn't really anything we can do about that.
Part of that was the fact that we were trying to not have to nickel and dime people a couple months after they sign up, right? So that was the solution. But a lot of, Amy, what you said have been heard several times. So it's something we could push up the chain. I don't know if we'll have a solution anytime soon, but it's definitely a good point to make.
I saw that
Awesome. Thank you.
Jacqueline. Uh-huh. Thanks, Amy. I saw Jacqueline Murphy had asked a question regarding the California requirements. You want to ask that again, Jacqueline?
Oh, she may not be off mute, but reading the question is asking if the California background is set up now. That's the live scan. We did just recently receive our live scan number, so we'll be sending out information on how to do that very shortly.
Thanks, Daniel. Anything else?
How do you pay?
There are a couple different ways. You can pay by electronic. Jen, you could probably answer that better than I can.
I will have to get back to you on that. There was a way to pay online with a card or a check, and I don't have the directions directly in front of me, but ideally you pay through the system and it's taken care of with the unit credit card or something.
You can mail a check to council, I know that, and I think the fee is $1 there. If you pay by credit card, there is a 3% fee. So a lot of units choose not to actually pay online, and they'll mail the money to council, and then Jody Stonebrook kind of puts the two together.
Thank you.
Last year, if you paid EFT or with a bank account, the fee was very small. The credit card fee was the 3%, which adds up, but I think the other one was $1.
Yeah. And then, of course, I think you can also take it out of your Scout account too, but you would have to send an email to Jody Stonebrook, ask her to remove the money from your account. Anything else? Chris, did we get all your questions answered?
Yep, thank you very much, Bob.
Okay. Would you just send me an email to remind me, and we'll talk about the key 3 delegate?
Okay. What was your Sloopy Sales at Gmail?
Sloopysales@gmail.
Okay.
And it's Sloopy, not sloppy.
Right, 2 O's.
All right, well, if there's nothing further, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I hope this has been helpful. And again, if you have questions, get a hold of me. And if I can't answer them, I'll get back, have Jody get a hold of you. So thank you all.